Benzino is not playing with 50 Cent after getting hit with those snitch allegations. Instead of staying quiet or brushing it off, Benzino called Fifth out directly and even threatened to pull up and throw hands. This all came ever since Benzino lost it during one of his recent interviews, and he lost it because the host of the interview brought up his paperwork and confronted him about everything that was in the docs.
Bro, I'm out, man. I can't. What number is that? I don't even know that number. What number? How am I gonna know this number?
The whole thing came off wild, and honestly, it just shows how deep Benzino's caught up in how the internet sees him. Even though the podcast he pulled up on is small and still building its audience, he saw a clip where they called him a snitch and felt the need to respond. So instead of ignoring it, he took time out his day to hop on their show and try to clear his name, like full-on defending himself over how some folks online view him. Now, this whole Benzino situation is wild. Here we got a 59-year-old man getting all worked up over some internet comments calling him a snitch about a situation involving his nephew Guy Scott and him getting shot at his own mother's funeral. Instead of brushing it off, he pulled up to a small podcast that barely drops interviews just to explain himself. By doing that, he gave those snitch rumors way more attention. Nobody was really talking about it like that until he sat down and made a scene. What's funny is that if he had just ignored it, it probably would have faded out. Benzino even got into the family drama, saying he wasn't planning to go to his mom's funeral because of beef with relatives. But then Stevie J popped up with Love and Hip Hop cameras, trying to film the moment. Stevie called Benzino from the funeral, and Benzino agreed to come scoop him up so they could shoot. When he showed up, he got shot. Like, if you're dealing with family issues, funerals, and gunshots, and you still got time to argue with randoms on the internet, priorities all the way off. And this whole situation just shows how dumb and backwards some of these so-called street rules really are. Like, how are you supposed to follow rules made up by people who weren't even thinking logically to begin with? So in Benzino's case, it's like this. His own cousin shot him at his mama's funeral. The cousin told the cops Benzino had a gun, and when police questioned Benzino, he told them his cousin shot him. That's it. But now people are saying he's a snitch for saying who pulled the trigger. Like what? Benzino says he just reacted in the heat of the moment, and what he told the cops shouldn't count as snitching. But let's be real. If someone shoots you at your own mother's funeral, there are no street rules anymore. Most people would be calling the cops, naming names, and making sure the shooter never sees freedom again. But Benzino is still trying to play by these keep it solid rules, even when it almost cost him his life. How do we know? Well, it's because Benzino told the truth to the police. He gave them the full tea on how his own nephew shot him. We're talking details, body cam footage, the whole thing, but then he tried to backpedal. So now Benzino's saying that even though he told the cops everything, he later got up on the stand and switched up like, I don't know who shot me. Apparently his logic is, if I take it back later, it cancels out the first snitching. But street dudes ain't buying that. They're saying once you snitch, you snitch. And let's not forget, the only reason his nephew even went to jail is because Benzino said something. If he had stayed quiet and pulled the old, I don't know what happened, the cops probably would have let it slide based on lack of evidence. But nope, Benzino was out here giving full statements. Then it gets even worse. Right before this interview, Benzino sends over a link to his own paperwork like, check it, I ain't no snitch. But when the dude actually opened it up and read it, it had receipts that contradicted everything Benzino was claiming. That's when the panic set in. Benzino started stuttering, stammering, and trying to change the topic. Benzino apparently told the defense attorney that his client shot him, not once, not in a moment of confusion, but 3 whole times, and on tape. Now Benzino tries to downplay it by saying he only told the police in the heat of the moment. But that excuse goes out the window when we hear that he told the defense attorney, the opposite side, on 3 separate recordings that he remembers his nephew shooting him. And here's what makes it even worse. It wasn't some accidental jail phone call where emotions were high. This sounded like either a formal cross-examination or a private convo with the defense, which means Benzino had time to think, breathe, and still chose to throw himself under the bus. Multiple times too. No matter how much Benzino tries to spin it, the receipts are spinning him. Benzino talked. He gave law enforcement everything they needed behind the scenes. But he thought he'd never have to actually testify. He thought it was gonna stay private, but when it became clear they weren't protecting him and that he'd be expected to hit the stand and speak on it publicly, that's when he tried to flip the script and suddenly claim the street code. That's when he supposedly said, "Nah, I'm not coming to court." The picture being painted is that Benzino tried to play both sides, silent informant in private, but gangsta when the pressure hit. And when the conversation in the interview started getting a little too real, especially when the prosecutors and transcripts were brought up, Benzino shut it down. He was clearly uncomfortable and dipped out. Then the convo shifted to Wack 100, who we all know has a rocky history with Benzino. Wack had previously dropped receipts, DMs, messages, even audio of Benzino having some intimate conversations with individuals who weren't heterosexual women. That alone stirred up a lot of controversy. So during the interview, when those topics came up, Benzino got defensive fast. He tried to claim everything was lies, but when the interviewer brought up a phone number tied to the messages, that's when things really went left. Benzino couldn't deny it, but he didn't confirm it either. He just looked uncomfortable, then bailed on the interview. He said he wasn't going to talk about it, got visibly irritated, and walked out. The tension was palpable. You could tell the interviewer was just trying to move the conversation forward, but Benzino had checked out. And this isn't the first time either. He's walked out of other interviews too when the heat got too high. Now let's be real here. There's clearly something he's running from. Whether it's legal stuff, street credibility, or personal secrets, this constant pattern of walking out anytime accountability shows up is only adding to the suspicion. And look, everyone has a past. Nobody's perfect. But avoiding the conversation over and over again isn't helping him. If anything, it's making the public even more curious and more critical. Moral of the story? If you're gonna snitch, just stand on it. Don't snitch, then backtrack, then lie about your own paperwork. And definitely don't try to play both sides of the street game at damn near 60 years old. But after all went down and the smoke cleared, Benzino did give us some sort of explanation as to why he did what he did, and especially why he choked so hard during that interview.
Don't know who shot me. Now that's in the paperwork. The grand jury, you can go get the paperwork. They said, nah, I said, I don't know who shot me. I said, I was dizzy, I was f***ed up.
As you could see, Benzino came back with a video trying to clear the air, and he was not holding back. He came out swinging against those snitching allegations. Benzino made it very clear that he didn't cooperate with the popo. He didn't take the stand, nor did he hand over any information. He straight up said that whatever the prosecutor said about him doesn't matter, because in his words, "I ain't testified, period." He also denied any claims about paperwork or behind-the-scenes cooperation, and basically told people to stop running with stories that don't have full context. Now from there, he got real heated about the internet rumors. He said what a lot of celebs are thinking but don't always say. He's tired of people believing every screenshot, every fake doc, and every wild post without knowing the real story. He said folks online are too quick to believe paperwork that's never been verified, and that it's damaging to people's lives and legacies. And in Benzino's case, he feels like it's been non-stop false narratives. Then he explained why he walked out of the interview. He felt like it was a setup. He said he made it clear what topics were off limits before they even started rolling. But when the interviewer pressed him anyway, especially about the snitching and the whole Wack 100 situation, he felt disrespected. He said he wasn't about to sit there and let somebody try to twist his story or corner him for content, so he walked. Simple as that. And yes, he addressed the Wack 100 situation too. You already know that's been messy for a while. Benzino shut all that down. He said there's no truth to those rumors about his sexuality, and that Wack's receipts were either fake, edited, or taken completely out of context. He basically accused Wack of using lies and old beef to try and embarrass him. 50 Cent chipped in, as per usual. Once the Benzino drama was bubbling online, here comes 50 sliding into the chat like he's been watching it all unfold with popcorn in hand. And what he said was straight petty, straight iconic, and straight on brand for 50. You want me to believe Omar was a stoolie because Sosa said so? Yes. If I say he ain't right, he ain't right. Now, if you don't know, that is a Scarface reference. And if you've seen the movie, then you already know where he's going with this. In Scarface, Sosa accuses Omar of being a snitch, and Tony Montana just has to take his word for it. No paperwork, no proof, just vibes. And guess what? Sosa's word was law. So when 50 Cent quotes that and flips it, what he's saying is, I don't care what Benzino says. I don't care about the paperwork. If I say you a snitch, then guess what? You a snitch. Basically, 50 is clowning Benzino for doing all this explaining, video ranting, and trying to clear his name. When in 50's eyes, the streets don't need all that. He said what he said, and that's enough to ruin your rep in hip-hop. This is a classic 50 Cent move. And let's be real, in the court of public opinion, especially in rap, sometimes that's all it takes. One powerful cosign, one shady post, and boom, your image is toast. So now the question is 50 being unfair, or is he just stating facts about how the industry works? Cause right now, Benzino is fighting for his name.
We can get in the ring, and I'll beat your ass, Curtis. Gorilla face, hole in the mouth, can't dress, limp. Got his platform, so I see 50. I see your man Curtis.
Benzino didn't hold back at all when he called out 50 Cent. He used his government name, Curtis, and straight up challenged him to a boxing match. He was talking big, saying they could get in the ring for some money, go 3 rounds, and that he'd beat 50 down. He even threw in a few jabs about 50 being big, sloppy, and too stiff, and said he doesn't buy into all that talk about 50 having a Golden Gloves background. To make things even more dramatic, Benzino name-dropped Floyd Mayweather, basically asking him to help set up the fight, like he was really ready to turn this into a whole public spectacle. Those are some heavy words coming from Benzo, but that doesn't surprise us at all. We do know that these two have quite some history behind them. So here's how it all started, and why these two have never seen eye to eye. Back in the early 2000s, Benzino was co-owner of The Source magazine, and The Source was a huge deal at the time. It was basically the Bible of hip-hop culture. Benzino used that platform to push his own music and low-key settle personal scores. When Eminem came on the scene and started blowing up with Dr. Dre backing him, Benzino wasn't feeling it. He accused M of being a culture vulture and claimed the industry was giving him a pass because he was white. And remember, 50 Cent was signed to Eminem and Dre, so when Benzino came for M, he was indirectly coming for 50 too. That's how 50 got dragged into the beef. From there, it turned into full-on war. Benzino dropped diss tracks like Pull Your Skirt Up, trying to call out Eminem, and Eminem clapped back with brutal tracks like Nail in the Coffin and The Sauce, completely tearing Benzino apart. A lot of people felt like M buried Benzino with those, but it didn't stop at music. Benzino tried to use The Source to push anti-Eminem narratives. At one point, they even published an old demo of M rapping some questionable lyrics from when he was a teenager, trying to paint him as racist. That move totally backfired. People saw it as petty, and The Source started losing credibility. That was kind of the beginning of the end for Benzino's hold on hip-hop media. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was skyrocketing in fame with Get Rich or Die Tryin', and he was known for being super petty and ruthless in beefs. He and Benzino went back and forth with shady interviews, sneak disses, and name-calling. Benzino would call 50 a snitch or claim he was industry-made, and 50 would clown Benzino for being irrelevant or trying to stay hot by piggybacking off drama. Even when the beef cooled off for a while, neither one really let it go. It's one of those old-school grudges that's just always been simmering in the background. Anytime Benzino's name pops up in a controversy or he goes viral for the wrong reasons, 50 is right there, ready to throw shade and remind everyone that he's never like that man. And that's where we're at today, too. 50 never wastes an opportunity to give us his thoughts on whatever is going on in the world. But at the end of the day, this Benzino snitching situation is a call-out for a much bigger pattern that a lot of people don't want to admit is happening, especially in the rap game and street culture. What's being criticized is that quiet behavior a lot of so-called real ones engage in. The type where somebody talks to the police or the DA behind the scenes, tells them everything they want to know, thinking nobody will find out. And then when it's time to go public, when it's time to hit that stand, they try to double back. They try to play tough, recant their statement, pretend like nothing was ever said. And what he's saying is, nah, you already cooperated. You already gave them your story. You can't play both sides. Because once you've told the authorities on 3 separate recordings that somebody shot you, you don't get to turn around and act like you're standing on street principles. That doesn't make you real. That just makes it confusing and, honestly, embarrassing. So what's the bigger issue here? It's the selective application of street rules. The idea that people want to wear the image when it suits them, but duck responsibility when it gets real. That's what's being called out here. And honestly, it raises a real question. Should someone still be considered a real one if they're telling behind closed doors but fronting like they're silent when the spotlight's on? Y'all? This Benzino and 50 Cent drama just does not quit. From diss tracks to public shade to boxing match threats, this beef has been cooking for decades, and it's still hot. Whether Benzino's serious about stepping into the ring or just trying to get under 50's skin, one thing's for sure, this back and forth is far from over. But now, we want to hear about what y'all think. Is Benzino just being unfairly targeted, or is he refusing to take ownership of his own mess? And do you believe he actually said something behind the scenes that he's now trying to cover up?